Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snowman, here to continue my journey through every country in the world. And we're on to the Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast. I've heard this country mentioned in other videos, but don't know much. I'm assuming you guys have a lot of ivory. I mean, I really don't know. So, I guess without further ado, we're going to check you guys out. Before I do, please hit that like and subscribe below, please and thank you. And I hope you guys continue the journey along with me, do an alphabetical order. And so you guys are up. Let's check you guys out. I know you guys got some cool, interesting facts to show me, but I don't even know what I'm doing. There we go. I got to do full screen. The weather's been bad lately, so hopefully I keep my connection.
There's a really strange fact about Michael Jackson in this video. You'll have to find out by watching this video. Ha! You can't click away! I got you curious!
I'm gonna watch it anyway.
It's time to learn geography.
No! Bonjour à tous, je suis votre hôte Barbie et je sais, j'aurais pu faire cette vidéo plus tôt sous la lettre C pour Côte d'Ivoire, mais comme vous le savez, ceci est une émission d'anglais, alors nous allons utiliser le mot Ivory Coast, d'accord? Whew, 3 months of Duolingo. Ha! I love this app. Now, if you don't know anything about Ivory Coast, basically it's like Ghana's French-speaking rival and the land of chocolate. So anyway, the Ivory Coast is located in West Africa, bordered by 5 other countries and the Gulf of Guinea to the south. The country is divided into 12 districts plus 2 district-level autonomous cities. Each of these cities is kind of considered like a capital, making Ivory Coast a dual capital country. The first one being Abidjan, the largest city along the coast, known as the economic capital, and Yamoussoukro, the political capital with all the government buildings, which was deliberately built to centralize the location of political power. The weird thing is, although the cities have mayors, since 2011, the 12 non-autonomous districts still have yet to appoint governors. So technically, by legal definition, the districts are more like theoretical entities rather than actual functioning ones. And if you really think about it, that kind of means they don't actually exist. It's like, hey, let's split this pie. Sure. Now, in my head, I split it into 2 pieces. You have to guess where I cut it. After Abidjan, known as the Paris of Africa, the second largest city would be Bouaké and Doloa, which also have the largest and only 2 international airports, being Abidjan Port Boué or Félix Houphouët-Boigny International and Bouaké International. The borders with Liberia mostly run along the Kavala and Sestos rivers, the Laraba with Burkina Faso, and a portion of the Black Volta with Ghana. Keep in mind that much like Ghana, historically before European colonialism, the Ivory Coast was split into various kingdoms and tribal territory clusters, which, if we really want to get technical, looks like this. But if we really want to summarize the parent groups, it looks a little bit something like this, with 4-ish main branches: the Kwa, the Kru, the Gur, and the Mande. The Kwa branch Akan peoples are kind of like the cousins of the Ashanti people that we mentioned in the Ghana episode, and they make up the largest group in the Ivory Coast. The most notable tribe being the Baoulé, founded by Queen Poku. Oh, and at one point in the late 60s, the Sanwi people tried to break away and become independent, and I'm not even joking, they declared Michael Jackson to be their king in 1992. So if there's one thing you need to take away from this episode, it's that Michael Jackson literally was a king in Africa. Anyway, surprisingly, the country doesn't really have any offshore islands or islets. The only real islands can be found around Abidjan Lagoon. The cool thing, though, is that most of Ivory coasts, that sounds a little weird, has wonderful open unspoiled beaches. The bad news is almost all of it is inaccessible due to the choppy river estuaries and lack of natural ports.
That is beautiful, man. Like, you can get hotels and stuff on there, have some like cool like vacation spots, but you said that you can't get to it. That stinks.
Beaches. The bad news is, almost all of it is inaccessible due to the choppy river estuaries and lack of natural ports hindering the development of beach towns. That means that other than Abidjan, there are virtually no coastal roads. Otherwise, some top notable sites of the Ivory Coast might include places like
Ivory Coast, you gotta get on the ball, guys. You gotta get on the ball. Like, you have prime tourist like location, right? Real estate, man. You build a road down there, get some condos up. You know, guys been bringing that money. But then again, maybe you guys don't want that. You kind of prefer, you know, like, get quiet, kind of laid back. So I if that's the case, I definitely understand that. You don't want, you know, a bunch of people like me hanging out there on the beach, you know, bucking you guys. So I can understand that too. Anyways, back to the video.
virtually no coastal roads. Otherwise, some top notable sites of the Ivory Coast might include places like any of the national parks, like the largest one, Comoé, St. Paul's Cathedral, the Civilian Museum, the Crocodile House, the Jardin Botanique de Binaville, Paradisia Abidjan. Sassandra has a ton of historical buildings and monuments, the beaches of Grand Bassam, the waterfalls at Man, the Pyramid Building, and finally the Basilique Notre-Dame de la Paix, or the Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, the largest basilica in the world, larger than St. Peter's in the Vatican. Sweet, I think that just about covers all of it. And speaking of sweet, let's get chocolatey.
Chocolate.
The Ivory Coast got its name from the historically major export of ivory back centuries ago before it became super illegal. But in all honesty, it should be called the Cocoa Coast.
I figured that.
That sounds better. Cocoa Coast. Or en français, Côte de Cacao. Even that sounds cool. Côte d'Ivoire, pouvez-vous juste changer votre nom? Anyway, the Ivory Coast lies in sub-Saharan Africa, and much like all the other West African countries, the land is mostly flat with undulating plains in the south with lush tropical forests, whereas the northern regions are drier and semi-arid savannas and grasslands. Basically, by the coast, humid most. Northward bound, drier ground. Keep in mind that rule doesn't apply everywhere. Namibia be like, by the coast, dry, northward, drier. As mentioned before, the highest point in the west is Mount Nimba, which is basically the African version of South America's Mount Roraima, which is like the peak shared by 3 countries. The country is fed by 3 main rivers and their estuaries, the Sassandra, Kamoe, and the longest river, the Bandama, which flows into the largest lake in the central part of the country, Lake Kossou, which was artificially created after the Kossou Dam was built on the river in 1973. Because water is pretty much everywhere, this allows Ivory Coast to flourish in flora and fauna, with over 1,200 animal species and 4,700 plants, everything from jackals, monkeys, chameleons, panthers, pygmy hippopotami, and the national animal, the African elephant, can be found. Despite the abundance of water, only about 10% of the land is arable, as about a third of the country is forested. Nonetheless, 75% of the workforce uses that arable land to grow everything from coffee, oil palms, rubber, and their pride and joy, the national crop that they are the #1 producer in the world, cocoa. Since they export so much, about 25% of all exports in total, chances are, without even knowing it, you may have already eaten some kind of chocolate confection made from cocoa grown here. It's such a common commodity that half the time farmers don't even know what it's used for. They've never had chocolate. They just grow it because they know it's an
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. I was gonna pause it and say, man. So basically, I think that everyone seems to be happy. You know, everyone's got farming going on and all that good stuff. My bad. Back it up here a second because I messed up. But yeah, all this stuff's been pretty positive, and I guess, you know, people are doing pretty good over there. Well, I'm not finished yet, but so far you guys seem like you guys got it going on.
Knowing it, you may have already eaten some kind of chocolate confection made from cocoa grown here.
Yummy.
It's such a common commodity that half the time farmers don't even know what it's used for. They've never had chocolate. They just grow it because they know it's an in-demand product. Vpro Metropolis did a great video showing a cocoa farmer who tried chocolate for the first time.
Vous n'avez jamais goûté au chocolat?
Non, non, on n'a jamais goûté au chocolat. Si c'est pas aujourd'hui. C'est doux. C'est doux là.
Vous aimez?
Check it out, it's a great video, it's a cool report.
Cool,
But going
man.
back to food, dishes in the Ivory Coast pretty much follow the same West African format, you know, lots of cassavas, plantains, slow-simmered stews and sauces with peanuts, grilled or dried fish and chicken. However, 2 things they definitely specialize in and love are atieke cassava mash with kajenu stew, and the famous Ivorian land snails, which can grow huge and are typically grilled or eaten with sauce. The interesting thing is that even after 2 civil wars in the 21st century, the Ivory Coast still moves forward as the largest economy in the West African Economic Monetary Union, which is basically the French-speaking countries of ECOWAS. Hey! Oh, whatever, all your people are like quadrilingual. I'm pretty sure you speak enough French to get by. By the way, ECOWAS has a really cool looking headquarters building in Togo. Anyway, yeah, the Ivory Coast actually didn't fall in the same pattern of many other African states in which a government uprising led to a dictator that ruined everything. One man actually kind of got things moving along, and we'll talk more about him in...
Okay.
Okay, first of all, Ivorian. That's what you call these people. Ivorians, not
Ivorian?
Ivory Coastians. Just getting that little PSA out there. Anyway, the country has about 25 million people and has about 60 different tribes. These tribes are divided into 5 principal ethnic groups, the largest one being the Akan people at about 42%, the Gurs at about 18%, the Northern Mandes at about 16%, Krus at about 11%, and Southern Mandes at 10%. Whereas the rest are made up of other people groups, mostly other Africans from abroad, and non-Africans like Lebanese and French people. They use the West African CFA franc as their currency, they use a Type-C plug outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now, the Ivorian people are quite diverse, however, as a former French colony, the French language kind of unites them all. Nonetheless, out of the 65-ish languages spoken throughout the country, the Kwa languages have the most speakers, and the second probably belongs to the Dioula language in the West, which is related to the Mande and Mandinka languages that we already discussed in the Gambia and Guinea episodes, which is sometimes written in the cool-looking Nko script created by this guy in 1949, making it one of the few indigenous African writing systems. See, small stuff like that. That's why I love this show. I have the best job ever. Religion plays an interesting role as about a third of the population identifies as Christian or Catholic, about 39% are Muslim, while a quarter are animist. All three of these groups live alongside each other relatively peacefully. In a nutshell, during the tribal kingdom eras, Muslim traders came in from the north around the first millennia. Around the 15th century, Portuguese and French people stopped by and started trading. The French got a little overprotective because they didn't want the English to dominate the Gulf of Guinea. Then there was that short-lived Wassoulou Empire that tried to revolt. This guy became the father of independence, and in 1960 they broke free from the French. From there he became the leader for about 33 years. However, things were actually, in contrast to other African states, pretty good. I mean, sure, he had some controversies, but overall, the country became the most prosperous in West Africa. People were living better, the economy was booming. I mean, technically he was a dictator, but he kind of didn't suck. Then the 90s came and his successor totally sucked. Long story short, 1999 coup d'etat, then this guy stepped in, then this guy was elected, things got worse, 2002 civil war, things got worse, 2010 elections, this guy was voted in, then there was a short second civil war, but then things kind of calmed down and the economy is back and booming again. It's weird, it's like the whole time all these wars were happening, they were still maintaining composure and doing international business. And that's kind of the theme of the Ivory Coast. A little war can't hurt them. After President Ouattara took over, he actually did kind of a good job doubling the infrastructure budget from 15% to over 30%, and the economy grew at its peak at around 9% regularly.
And it's pretty good because I've seen a lot of like African, countries, and there's been a lot of civil wars I've seen, and it's just I feel so bad for the country because it just can't get a break and it can't get going. But I mean, you guys have been having the civil wars, and your country is still like going forward and still prospering. Just imagine if you just had like one really good solid. I mean, it just looks apparently you guys did have a couple of decent leaders, and probably one of the big reasons why it's going forward. But imagine if you can keep one of those really good leaders, man, you guys, the sky's the limit, it seems like. Anyways.
Infrastructure budget from 15% to over 30%, and the economy grew at its peak at around 9% regularly. They were like, look, people, we don't have time for this. Which one do you like? Guns or money?
Money.
Otherwise, the Ivory Coast is laden with amazing, colorful tribes, traditions, and customs. Some of the most notable tribes being the Bilfo tribe with their adobe clay houses, the Dan tribe with their spinning warrior and stilt dances, the acrobatics of the Korhogo tribe, the terracotta funerals by the Akan people, the Senufo people with their rich Korhogo cloth, the Yakuba girl juggling dance, the Baule tribe loves brass art. Many tribes come together for the huge Fête des Masques, or the Mask Festival, which is the biggest one in the country. There's also the Fête du Dupri in Gaumont, where people run around naked at midnight. You're never short of music and art. In fact, the Ivorian movie Black and White in Color became the first winner of an Oscar by a Black Republic. Abidjan is also kind of seen as like the fashion capital of sub-Saharan Africa, both in Western and native designs. Due to their close ties to France, the latest get-ups can be found on runways and boutiques all across the city. Some notable people of Ivorian descent from the Ivory Coast might include people like their only gold medal winner, Sheikh Salah Cisse, Alpha Blondy, actor Bambajan Bamba, Constance Amiot, Sidiki Bakaba, Amadou Kourouma, Bernard Dadier, Vecho Lolas, and the pride and glory of the Ivory Coast, Didier Drogba. In the end, the Ivory Coast knows how to manage themselves and dust off pretty well with a touch of class. Let's see how classy they are with others. No surprise, the Ivory Coast is a West African powerhouse that has high position of authority.
But it does seem like you guys be great to party with, man. All those get-togethers and stuff like that looked like a blast. I just want to point that out.
No surprise, the Ivory Coast is a West African powerhouse that has high position of authority of influence in the region. First of all, the country generally gets along with the other francophone neighbors around them, especially landlocked Burkina Faso and Mali, as they kind of act as like the gateway to the ocean for them and their trade needs. Ghana is like their closest frenemy. They share some of the same tribes and people groups. Business is always moving back and forth between them. But when it comes to regional dominance, the Ivory Coast will never hesitate to push Ghana out of the spotlight. There was even that time in the 90s when a riot broke out over a soccer match between the two. When it comes to their best friends, however, surprisingly, many might say France. The Ivory Coast has always had like a privileged role as like the jewel of France's African relations. Their founding father insisted relations be maintained, presidents have visited each other, their militaries have cooperated in conflicts, numerous citizens on both sides have immigrated to each other's countries, and they love sharing everything from cuisine to the latest fall fashion line. In conclusion, the Ivory Coast kind of fell into a reputation crisis in which they were like, look guys, we were doing so well for decades, we are not going to end up like all the other African countries that let war destroy them. Now shut up and start making money. Stay tuned! Jamaica is coming up next.
That's exactly what I was saying. I mean, like, you guys came out on top, and you wouldn't let all that war and all that take over. You guys made sure you stood strong, and kept on moving forward. But anyways, guys, I hope you like this video. Please hit that like and subscribe. And I hope you guys continue this journey through every country in the world. Jamaica is next. And always fun time kind of learning stuff about countries that, you know nothing about. Even if you know something about countries, you're always find something cool to learn. That's what's kind of cool about history and geography. I mean, it's just fun. Good fun. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys in future videos. And yeah, peace.